Hey friend, welcome back. It's time to grab a warm drink and hang out for a while. Have you ever been making art when all of a sudden a voice creeps in the back of your mind? A voice that says you're not a real artist or you're just pretending. Imposter syndrome is a lot more common than you might think, especially in creative spaces. And when the good old fake it till you make it doesn't work, it's time to delve a little deeper. I used to think it would go away with time, that it's only temporary in the beginning phases of trying anything new. That once I had more experience or followers or more polished pieces, it would just disappear. But here's what no one told me. Imposter syndrome doesn't always fade away. Sometimes it evolves, sometimes it hides behind perfectionism, but overall it lurks in the shadows ready to face its time in the sun. And today I want to talk about it, to try and understand it as best as I can, so join me once again on my quest to become a better artist. Imposter syndrome often shows up when we care deeply, when something is important to us. The more we care, the bigger the imposter syndrome is. That might sound strange, but it's true, at least in my own experience. It's not the people who are indifferent who struggle with this. It's the ones who are putting their hearts and souls into what they do, their craft, their creative and life pursuits. The ones who are trying, growing, learning. The ones who want to get better and sometimes feel like no matter how much they give, it's never enough. So if you've been questioning your worth as an artist, take a slow breath with me. You're not experiencing that because you're a fraud. You're feeling it because you're invested, because you care. And it's important to remember that any craft takes time and patience to grow into its full potential. Let's look at a few ways imposter syndrome can manifest itself for artists. Sometimes it looks like a thought, like everyone else is better than me and I'll never catch up. That one hits hard, especially today and in online spaces, where you're constantly exposed to polished, finished artworks of people who have already mastered their craft. But what you don't see is how many drafts it took, the hours they spent working hard to get to where they are now, how many moments of doubt they faced, or how many times they abandoned a piece, only to come back to it at a later time or at a different skill level. So it's important to remember your art journey isn't supposed to match anyone else's timeline. You're not late, you're not behind, you're just on your own path, at your own pace, and that's valid. Other times, imposter syndrome says something like, I'm not original enough, everything worth doing has already been done. But here's the thing, yes, maybe someone else has painted flowers, or portraits, or fan art, but no one has made them the way you would, with your colors, your choices, your hand, and your heart. Your voice as an artist isn't just about the subject. It's in the subtle decisions you make without realizing it. It's often not about technicality or skill, because as we all know, art is very subjective. And originality doesn't always mean creating something brand new from nothing. Sometimes it's how you interpret, remix, and evolve ideas. And I'm not talking about AI art here. I'm talking about real, true human creativity. Taking something in, processing it through your own experiences, and letting it out into the world by your own hand. Another common form of imposter syndrome might sound like, if I was a real artist, this would be easier, much easier. But let me be honest, it wouldn't. Even the most practiced professional artists struggle sometimes. They wrestle with blank pages, they question their ideas, they throw away work, and they get rejected from projects. They use reference to study things they've never drawn before. Struggle doesn't disqualify you, it connects you. If it feels hard, it's probably because you're growing, learning. And growing isn't linear or graceful, but it's the only real way forward. And then there's the sneaky one. I don't make money from my art, so I'm not a real artist. Let's unpack that one. Being an artist, the title, isn't something you earn through your income. It's something you live through intention. If you create, explore, practice, play, draw, write, sing, dance, you're an artist. I could go on counting the art forms, but I think you get my point. You don't need a gallery, a commission list, or a full-time job to claim that identity. All you need is a pencil and some paper. Artistry is about expression. Sure, money can be a part of the picture, and for some it is, but it's never the whole frame. So what do we do when this voice does show up? Here's what helped me and what might help you too. Number 1 would be to name it. When you feel that doubt creeping in, the urge to rip out your page or delete your artwork, pause and say, that's my imposter syndrome talking, it's not me. It sounds stupidly simple, but naming it helps create space between you and the thought. You are not your self-doubt, you are the one noticing it, and that gives you power over it instead of it being the other way around. Number 2 would be to keep a small proof folder. A screenshot of a kind comment that made your day. A work you finished ages ago, but are still super proud of. Even if it's not up to your current skill set, it still has value. A messy sketch you're satisfied with, or a reminder that someone was inspired by your work. Not for your ego, but for perspective. Because when the doubt gets loud, this folder should be your quiet proof. At times, we forget the impact our art has on others, and sometimes we need a little help remembering. Number 3 would be to make art for your past self. Think about the version of you who first picked up a pencil. In my case, it was about age 4. What would that little child say if they saw what you're making right now? Somehow, I don't think they would say, this isn't very good or your artwork sucks. I think they say something more in the lines, wow, you made this? That's amazing. I wish I could draw like you one day. Your past self is still a part of you. Let them be amazed by how far you've come. Number 4 would be to surround yourself with honest creatives, with people who share the messy middle, not just the finished pieces. With artists who talk about their doubts and struggles, not to wallow in self-pity together, even though sometimes that works too, but more to remind you that you're not alone, that these challenges are here for a reason, and that it's your job to overcome them. We have so many more of them ahead of us for sure. That's why it's so important to enjoy the process and not to strive for perfection. Perfection is forever evasive. In fact, almost impossible to achieve. Creativity doesn't have to be a competition. It can be a community, and that makes a huge difference. And number 5 would be to let yourself be a beginner, again and again. Even experienced artists are beginners in something, and each artist you look up to was once where you are now. Think about it. Every new medium, new idea, new direction, it humbles you. And that's not a failure. That's part of the path and part of the process. The goal isn't to feel confident all the time. It's to keep creating even when you don't. It's to challenge yourselves in new ways every opportunity you get. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need permission to make art. You don't even have to share it online with the world if you don't want to. But I still encourage you to, regardless of what you might think of it. You're allowed to take up creative space just as you are, because you never know who will see it and what your art will spark in that person. So if you've been feeling like you're not good enough to call yourself an artist, I want to gently challenge that today. You're showing up, you're thinking, feeling, creating, even when it's quiet, and even if it's clumsy, even if you're just watching this video as a way back to your spark. I hope you find it, or it finds you. Thank you for being here and sharing your valuable time with me. Thank you for listening, for making art, and for trying. Imposter syndrome might stick around sometimes, but it doesn't get to decide who you are. Only you do. So pick up your pencil, take a breath, and remember, you're an artist, always have been, always will be. And your 4-year-old self would be so proud. I'll see you in the next one.